mentioned your name.
Just wanted to make sure that email was good. Yeah, that one. Okay. Yes, sir.
They gotta go to dinner or something.
Hey, I think I said lifelong Rockford resident and Latino community advocate or something like that.
Clean it up.
Because they have no funds for like hotel stays, housing, anything like that. So I said, there's a lot of programs.
Hello, my. So we should be good to go then. Okay. Awesome.
What's your name? 45. Oh. I got you, B. We do. I'm trying to slow it down a lot.
You're gonna need one.
After we do it. I'm gonna be like, oh, sure. I didn't want to crowd. Say good. I did good.
Rapid fire questions.
I feel
I don't know what was going on.
Me either. I'm just here.
I got your back. You got mine.
For sure. For sure.
All right. We in this together.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, Tricia Wagner from Rockford College. Yeah. Together.
They're talking. As soon as they're done talking, I'll start. Barb, we're going to start.
We'll talk.
We're going to start.
Yep, I'll move.
Commission, welcome to our meeting this month. We will call to order and start with a roll call.
Commissioner Barrero.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Burton is absent. Commissioner Crudup.
Here.
Commissioner Garwick. Commissioner Call.
Here.
Commissioner Martin. Here. Commissioner McDowell.
Present.
And Commissioner Velasquez probably will be late.
So the first thing on our agenda is acceptance of the Journal of Proceedings for the Community Relations Commission held on January 9th, 2025. If you all have had a chance to review those minutes, I will take a motion and a second to approve them.
So move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We do not look like we have any public speakers with us tonight, so we'll move into our information only. This is, Commissioners, we've been talking about having a panel where some of our underserved communities come in and talk to us about the things that are going on in their communities, things that they want us to be aware of. For those who haven't been at the last few meetings, the idea is this work will guide our work for the next year. So normally what happens is the mayor comes in and he gives us, a charge, and he did give us that charge, and the charge is listen to the community. Hear the community and, listen to their perspectives and move your work forward there. So we have a great panel in front of us who will be able to answer some questions. We have some questions you all should have at your desk that will help lead the conversation. Please know, though, just like with every other panel, if you have additional questions, just mics are on, so please shout those out. To our panel, the Community Relations Commission has the opportunity to really talk to the community, right? Learn from you what is going on, learn from you what barriers exist for the populations that you serve, for residents of our city. We then can help guide some of those concerns towards City Council ask them to look into them, ask city staff to look into those issues, and really provide an open line of communication between ourselves, you all as the community, and city leadership. So our goal today is to really hear from you all and take some perspective, and we will also then take some time in future meetings to process what we're hearing and take some best practices forward. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Maybe, Ron, if you want to start, the first thing I'm going to have you each do is just take a few minutes to introduce yourself and the work that you do in the community. If you are here representing an organization, feel free to talk about the work that organization does. If you are here representing yourself, talk about the work that you do in the community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ron Jackson. I am a person of color who is a wheelchair user, and I am here representing myself. As far as the community is concerned, I do a lot of work with Eliminate Racism 815, and I am a part of the new ACLU chapter that is starting in Rockford. Thank you very much.
All right. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. My name is Tricia Wagner. I am the Director of Adult Education at Rock Valley College. So I provide oversight and leadership to the adult education program. It includes adult basic education, adult secondary education, and English as a second language programs. And those three populations basically represent individuals who are not enrolled or required to be enrolled in K through 12 education, who may have basic skill deficiencies or may lack a high school diploma or may be needing to develop English language skills. And so we serve, at Rock Valley College, we serve between 900 and 1,100 students every year in these programs, split about 50-50 between ESL and then the adult basic and secondary ed. And we hope to, our overall goal is to help these individuals to improve their skills, become more active in their communities, access post-secondary education if that is their goal, and ultimately, hopefully, obtain a family-sustaining living wage, as well as just fulfilling their dreams. They're taking advantage of opportunities that our community offers in terms of education.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Antonio Ramirez Jr. I believe I was here. I was invited to give the perspective on our Latino community. I've been a long advocate for our Latino families, but I also have a passion for helping all youth, all families, when it comes to resources and supports needed throughout our community. Actually, my passion began helping young people, making sure they achieve their dreams and success, because I was once one of those youth that was disconnected, wasn't being heard, and needed supports at one point. And so a lot of my work comes from that, and I'm involved in various areas, from producing events for the Park District, Domingos en el Parque, also providing support at the RPS 205 level with our BPAC, our Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee. Again, also hosting events where we can provide resources and supports to all our bilingual families, not just our Spanish-speaking community. But yeah, definitely just here to kind of give any information that I can share. And my biggest thing is uniting our community and showing that we live in a great city and that we can share the love all over. So thank you for having me.
Hello, my name is Lynn Vu. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am board president of the Liam Foundation, which is the Rockford area's first LGBTQ+ resource center. I'm here on behalf of Phyllis Galisath, who's the co-founder and executive director. She's sick. She's unable to be here today. And we'll be looking at my phone from time to time when answering questions, just to make sure I'm hitting all the points that she wanted me to address. At the Liam Foundation, our mission is to encourage and heal LGBTQ+ folks in the Northern Illinois community through love, integrity, advocacy, and mentorship, and we do so through monthly support groups. We have a free, what do we call it, boutique for anyone who's interested in clothing, a free safe space for folks to come and explore and to get articles of clothing. We collaborate with different entities in the community to make sure that our clients who come see us and for our services are connected. So that's who I am.
Thank you all. So we'll start with the first question for you all. So when you think about the city of Rockford and local government, what are some things from your lenses that the city does really well? And what are some things that maybe need some improvement or things that we should be paying attention to? Whoever wants to start that part of the conversation again.
I feel as though the city of Rockford does a great job of informing people when things are happening legislatively. I feel like Mayor McNamara is a great public face for the city. He is at almost everything that is happening here, and I think that is a great representation of the type of unity that Rockford can and should have. I also think that many of the people that are in charge of the city really care about what happens here. So I think those are two of the strongest points. Some of the things that I would like to see improved are the gaps in services that the city has. And what I mean by that is we have all of these different agencies, but none of them communicate well with each other from an outside perspective. And I think that many people are being left behind by not doing that. I also would like to see more improvements in infrastructure so that our roads all across the city are improved and our internet access is improved, because as technology moves along, people are getting left behind just because they don't have access to internet.
I would be glad to reiterate everything that Ron said about the proactivity of the city to care about the community and Mayor McNamara's involvement. I think that even our invitation here today kind of represents the city's concern for populations that might be vulnerable in some ways. In thinking about improvements, I think I'm not completely aware of what information the city may lack, concerning particularly the population I represent or maybe the others. So I am thankful for this opportunity that we could connect and fill in knowledge gaps, or each of us probably represent a part of the community that may not get a lot of thought. You may not think of these populations, or there sometimes is lack of awareness of how big the population is, or how profound the need is in order for them to fully meet their needs. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm maybe perhaps hoping to have that conversation a little bit, if I can provide some education.
I think in most recent years, what I've been seeing that the city does well is going into the community and working well with the organizations that are providing services from all areas, from youth to adults. Quite recently, the transportation opportunity, that's huge for free transportation. That's something that's new, and I mean, definitely would love to see a lot of families utilize that opportunity, but I think one thing we can work on is getting that message out, and in the languages that our families can understand that's out there too. So how we can work together. And that's the other thing that the city has shown is their ability to work with the community and not, have to do everything on their own. I'm big on just, helping wherever I can. The experts are here in this building. How can I get you in front of the people that need to hear what's out there? One of the things that I was thinking about is even for new families that, come from other countries or even from other cities that move to Rockford, how can we help navigate them through the departments that the city has to, learn about the resources and who to connect with if they have needs and where to pay bills and things like that. But also, I know most recently just having more people available that can speak their language or really take the time with them, because it's scary coming to a building like this that's beautiful, that's huge, and not know where to go, and then you see a security guard at the front. So it's like, what's going on here, right? We're just trying to do our due diligence and trying to find information or apply for permits or whatnot, right? But definitely love the fact that, having the opportunity to come and speak and hear the community input is great, and I hope it continues. And yeah, just being, I'm a Rockfordian for life here. Just the gains that we've had over the last 10 years now, from the housing, that shows a lot that the city's been investing in, making sure we're doing great things. Rockford Promise was huge, and I'm hoping my son that's getting ready to graduate can be an opportunity, get the opportunity this year, and my daughter next year. So those are things that really show how much the city is showing love to our families and wanting to keep them here, and showing that, hey, investing in our community can go just, from infrastructure to education. That's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not a Rockfordian. I'm originally from California, but I echo all of my panel members in saying that the city has been doing, from my perspective, from what my observation, an excellent job in not just talking the talk, but showing up. For instance, the Liam Foundation, we had our first community meeting March 2020, a week before shutdown, with COVID shutdown, and the mayor was there. Representative West was there in our small little meeting. And since then, they've been in contact with us, and it's just very impressive, the level of communication and genuine wanting to help. So that is amazing, and it is seen and appreciated. I'm going to read some notes from Phyllis, the executive director at the Liam Foundation. She says, "One thing I feel Rockford does well is addressing homelessness through community partnerships and financial support through housing programs." Phyllis works directly with clients, so she is better versed to speak on this than I. "I've seen how these efforts provide real support to those in need, and that commitment to helping vulnerable populations is important. With that said, I think there's still a gap when it comes to crisis shelter, transitional housing, affirming health care, and social services for LGBTQ+ folks in our area. Many in our community struggle to find providers who are knowledgeable and inclusive, leading to gaps in care. Expanding education and training for healthcare professionals and ensuring city-backed services are explicitly welcoming to LGBTQ+ individuals, and that would be a meaningful step forward."
Thank you. So, Lynn, you actually set us up for the next question really well. We spent the last year as a commission looking at accessible, affordable housing and homelessness. So when you think about the communities that are important to you and the communities that you serve, what are some of the things that you're hearing in those spaces that are impacting those folks' abilities to live in safe, affordable, accessible housing? Or if they are currently unhoused, what are some of the barriers that they may be facing in those spaces?
We have families that are living with bigger families to survive right now. Renting an apartment or a house is crazy. My son, we just had a conversation the other day. He's a teacher at Lincoln and now living on his own. And he looked back at what our housing market looked like back when we had a small apartment. And he said, I don't know how you guys did it back then, and I can't imagine how families are doing it now. We've been very blessed, and, you know, mom and I have been working hard to be able to give a roof over their heads and own our home now for, 15 years, going on to 15 years. And just reaching that milestone for somebody that grew up from a disconnected community or underserved community, it's a huge win for me, and I want to see that for other families, and it's tough. We've seen the housing prices are going high. We need more programs to support families to own their first home. But also the thing that I'm seeing and hearing is families living with families in small houses just to make ends meet and be able to survive because, you know, there's a lack of spaces, and then the price alone to rent is crazy for our families right now. And then what opportunities are out there for somebody that might want to build a home and they just don't know where to start. And they're ready and they've been saving up. That would be something that, you know, I've heard families and friends that are like, man, I see this lot. Can I just build a small house here? How can I get things started? And then when you start looking at the permits and what it costs, it kind of gets discouraging. But we have people in the community that want to beautify parts of this of Rockford just by building something nice for their family. So however we can do that, I'm not sure what to do or how to make that happen. But I mean, that could be something to help our families right now. Definitely, I know everybody knows that housing is a big need right now.
And take it from the perspective of education, because the question is obviously very complex. You know, how do you connect people to sustainable housing? And I can kind of represent two perspectives, both the adult education and then really there isn't a huge difference between adult education learners and college students, you know, the students that we have at Rock Valley College. And I'm familiar with a few of the programs to represent the need. First and foremost, I feel like our perspective is that education is the answer to so many things, to make sure that if students are connecting with the educational needs that they have, that opens the doorway to employment, it opens the doorway to higher wages, it opens the doorway to sustainable careers. And I think that is one of our foundational points for building in our students. So, you know, access to education is definitely a part of it if you look at the long picture. One thing that I just to echo one of your points, one thing that we're aware of is that we would love for students to be able to access affordable housing and also kind of get out of the cycle of renting, but property taxes seem to be a big issue with the ability to buy and afford to own a home. So that's one of the main deterrents, you know, that we're aware of. Also, there is among within the adult education program proper, we are not aware of too much homelessness. We see it occasionally, but not a lot. We also at the college have a grant-funded program called Perkins, which provides the training, supplies, helps support career tech programs and student access for those programs. And they focus on a number of special populations, and one of them is homeless individuals. And upon doing studies and investigations of Rock Valley College as a whole, they found that there was sufficient homelessness reported that they could hire a homeless liaison who can meet the needs of students who may not be traditionally homeless, but maybe sleeping on couches, or they may be. And these are students of all ages, not just 18 to 22-year-olds, but multiple ages. So we definitely see it as a present in the community, and so I think there's a few different angles to kind of look at from the perspective that I can share. But I think that investing in the individual, investing in their knowledge base for how these things operate, investing in their education to help them reach levels where they could, get out of some of those cycles, are all probably part of the formula that could lead us to some better outcomes.
I think that in terms of the disability community, we need more housing. I currently pay $1,000 for an efficiency apartment every month. And I do that because it is the most accessible place that I can live without having to use my credit, because as a poor kid on the west side of Rockford most of my life, my credit is bad. So I can't afford a homeowner's loan. I can't do any of that. So I stay there because that's the best place for me to be. If we had more options, more people would be able to potentially grow in the community and get jobs or get education or any of those things that lead to a better life. But if you don't have a place to live, you can't worry about any of that other stuff.
So lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer people nationwide face significant housing challenges, discrimination in renting, buying, access to affordable housing, and higher rates of homelessness, especially with youth who are coming out and they get kicked out. They don't have resources. So this is also applicable to Rockford as well. And I mean, just we're an organization, but even just for the Liam Foundation to find a space to rent, we were turned away a few times when they found out what the population we were representing. So it's very blatant. I'm reading my notes here. So let's see. One of the biggest gaps that Phyllis notes is a desperate need for inclusive shelter, especially crisis housing. And this is especially for youth and transgender people. They find themselves without safe housing options due to family rejection and discrimination. Our local shelter and crisis housing programs aren't explicitly exclusive, which means that LGBTQ plus folks are downright dismissed, or they will avoid seeking out those resources for fear of mistreatment. We recently had a housing crisis center call Phyllis directly because they didn't know how to address this transgender client who was recently released from prison. And we are a nonprofit. We don't have housing, but yet a crisis center was asking us for help. And the client who was turned away, she said that she wanted to go back to prison because she would feel safer there. So that's one example of many. So without safe options, people are left couch surfing, they live in unsafe situations or face long-term homelessness. If we want to make real progress on housing stability, we need more intentional, inclusive shelter options that ensure that all LGBTQ plus individuals, like everyone else, has a safe place to turn in times of crisis.
Commissioners, I'm going to pause there since we've spent so much time on housing and ask if you have any follow-up questions related to housing that you want to address.
I do have one, and I'll try and be brief. I'm kind of just brainstorming an idea here, and I'm curious what your response to it would be. This is a hypothetical world, but obviously we've been dealing with housing for the last year or so, 2 years. You mentioned you've got a community would like to be able to build, renovate, the barriers to that, a community that would like to live, renovate, build, accessibility. And I know one of the things we've talked about is community organizations focused towards developing affordable housing. And we have some independent community organizations here in town that are growing and trying to fund themselves. If there were and this is kind of a two-pointed thing, to the accessibility, it seems to me that anytime we renovate a building, I know we have accessibility codes, and I think there should be incentives to, when renovating a property, to renovate it accessible. I think that's very important. But if there was some repository, I could say a hypothetical world where, as a community group, if you wanted to organize and have a resource that could help you with what are the code barriers, what financing is available, what grants are out there, where can I get the information to help organize a community group to develop, build, or renovate property, is that something that you would see as an asset?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, with the Liam Foundation, our dream is to be like the LGBTQ plus center in Los Angeles, where they have a full suite of services. They have housing for elders, and all sorts of different services. So our dream is just what you're describing. Ultimately, over the years, we would ultimately love to have housing and separate for LGBTQ folks to feel safe in and have those incentives to and guidance to build it. Yes, absolutely.
Commissioners, any other questions related to housing? Any other panelist thoughts before we move on to the next thing?
I think, if anything, bringing more people to meet with you all that have maybe some ideas and already connections that, they know that Rockford may not have, but it's out there. I know I just got involved with a group called NARUP. There's a group of realtors and here in they just started in Rockford, and they're not just here. They're not just there to sell houses. They want to give back to this community, and they want to give their knowledge and experience, and they're learning things in D.C. and different conferences and wanting to bring back some of those ideas here to help with the housing crisis going on. So looking at, connecting with realtors, connecting with those that may have, experiences that they've seen out in other cities, such as the organization in Los Angeles. We have also Comprehensive Community Solutions. I'm a board chair there, and we train young people to learn construction skills, but to get to the unions, it's a little tougher for them too. So is there ways to help maybe a second phase for young people that want to continue in the trade, because that program only runs for a year and they want to continue to learn, but there's barriers still to continue. And it's not that they don't want to join the union, but even getting into the union, let me tell you, when I graduated Youth Build and I went to try to get into the union, it was a little tough. They asked me to go look for my first job, and that was tough. I didn't know where to get into the carpentry business, and so I got discouraged. But being there as a chair, I want to make sure that young people that have that passion to go back into the unions, let's help them. It's not going to be the traditional union way anymore. We got to help young people realize that these careers are out there for them, and we got to work with them. It's different. And, I know organizations, not only CCS, but Zion, that are out there that are helping find affordable. Let's help however we can. Let's find best practices that are going on across the country that, assist. I know organizations in Ohio that have developed, apartments for young people that, are aged out from the system, they're providing them housing for at least a certain time. So like, those are things like, we have these buildings out here. I think there was a meeting a while back that we had where people were saying, what are we doing with these older buildings or buildings that are just sitting vacant and we're just going to knock them down? Maybe there's a chance to renovate them. I don't know. With everything going up high, I know it can cost a lot more too. But I think there's a lot of potential here in our city. Maybe we can show that we work as a community. We can make some things happen for housing here. I think that nobody else is seeing. And I mean, we're already known as a hot market. Why not say, hey, we're known to help those that need a place to stay, a house to call their own.
Thank you.
Eric, I had a follow-up question.
Sure.
For Liam Foundation, could you explain the issues some of your clients that you work with are facing? Is it more in shelter and crisis and transitional housing that they're facing that level of discrimination, or is this when they're trying to rent a unit or something like that? Or is it kind of equal?
I hypothetically, like for me, understanding the numbers, it would be both, but what the Liam Foundation helps with more are crisis situations, and so we see that more. And so what happens, and this is especially with transgender folks who, even if they have an ID that represents their gender, if the person who's intaking them are saying, no, I don't believe you, and this has happened before in that specific case where the intake personnel is asking what was between the individual's legs. Very inappropriate, very demeaning, and they still wouldn't believe it even though there was ID. And so they didn't know where to house that client, and for fear that if the transgender woman client stays in the women's section, the woman would be feel threatened by her presence. But if she goes to the men's section, which the intake person deemed that she's supposed to go, she may encounter violence. So for them, there was no clear policy. It's just I'm not sure of what their policies were, but it seemed like that at least the person doing the intake was trying to formulate their own ideas. They were not following protocol. That's my interpretation.
So advocating for clearer and better policies in shelters could be beneficial?
Yes, I think it definitely should start top down, but also, and I think this goes to some other questions later, but education. I think a large portion of that, yes, is biases, but some don't know. They don't know how to deal in situations like that where it's very unique, and so they might freak out, they might turn to their biases. So yes, I think policy from the top down, but also informed policy and educating on all layers of the organization.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chair, I know for several years the biggest issue has always been gaps in communication. And I think that one of the things for every body that's represented today is that there has to be a way to have some level of a service portal. We have so many organizations, and I'm 6 years into Rockford and still don't know 80% of the organizations that function in this place and in whatever space they're in. There has to be a place where there's a service portal where we can link resources to people, where we're not going all over the place. Now, I know that when the mayor instituted the Family Peace Center, the whole purpose of that was to be able to handle individuals where they don't have to be bounced around, where they can be served in one place where they're able to be assisted. There has to be a place where we can link, if it's housing, if it's the LGBTQ community, if it's the immigrant community, disability community. It has to be some level where individuals know, because we just have a lot of silos. We have a lot of people that's doing this. We got a lot of grant money going here, going there, but no one that's in need know how to connect to the group. Like, there's money out. Everybody getting money, but when you're in help and when you're in need, you don't have time to be bounced back and forth. So it has to be some kind of way, and I don't know how that's able to be created, but it has to be some kind of a database, some type of portal where individuals can go, where they can get to a person, not an answer machine, but a person that can help the need. If it's housing, we know we have a housing crisis. We know that. And probably within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have a senior citizen housing problem. So we know that, but how do we get ahead of that, and how do we have one central location where we connect organizations to people and not wait till we're at rock bottom to get into a crisis to try to find out where do I go, who can help me.
Thank you. So now we're going to shift a bit towards employment and economic empowerment. So when you're thinking about employment and economic empowerment inside the communities that you care about, what are some of the barriers that those folks may face that we may not be aware of? And do you have any ideas for the city on ways to minimize or eliminate some of the barriers that may exist inside those communities?
For me, the biggest barrier to employment for people is transportation. The bus system here takes entirely too long to get anywhere. I'm not sure how you fix it, but it needs to be fixed. If a person needs to go to a job on East State, depending on where they live, it could take them 2 hours. The city is not that big. It does not need to be that way. Another barrier is criminal records. There are tons of employers in this city who, once they find out a person has a past, will not hire them. It doesn't matter if they're qualified. It doesn't matter if they show up. It doesn't matter. We need more background-friendly employers in order to give those people a chance to be self-sustainable. Because a lot of those people also have disabilities that you can't see. So I think those are 2 of the biggest barriers.
I would say from the education standpoint, there are a lot of individuals, many of whom we work with in adult education, who lack basic skills, who may lack language skills, and both of those can be a barrier to accessing employment and also accessing further education. We know that it takes time. It's not at all an immediate process to even if our students that are reading and have higher math levels and are ready to work toward their Illinois high school diploma right away, it still can take them months, to work through 4 tests that they have to take. Developing English language skills to the point of college readiness can take years. And then developing basic education skills, if you have a student with a reading or a math deficiency, can take a while. Our biggest concern, the education that we provide for our adult population in Rockford who need these services, the funding has been going down for some years for this. And with the current uncertainty about availability of funds, we're nervous and worried that we won't be able to have the funding that's needed to continue to provide as services at the same levels to students. One of the things I've been really proud of, I've been the director of the adult education program for 8 years at Rock Valley College, and I was at Kishwaukee College for 11 years before that, so I've done my whole career, in adult education. And I can see the difference that it makes from a longevity perspective for students who are invested in and allowed the time, you know. So we're hoping, we sort of see that funding challenge as a threat to the sustainability of programs. I can brag for a second and say, you know, our adult education program for years, that all the time that I've been involved with it, has exceeded federal and state targets for our outcomes, you know, transitioning students to credential-bearing programs at high rates, improving measurable skills gains. There are three metrics related to employment: one for accessing employment second quarter after exit, one for retaining employment fourth quarter after exit, and one for accessing a median wage of around $6,400 per quarter. And all of those benchmarks we get to write in our proposals that we exceed. So, you know, it's a program that is meeting many needs, that is thriving and growing. And I do worry about the sustainability based on just the funding landscape. And I don't know if the city has the option to kind of look at, you know, vulnerable populations, you know, and kind of come alongside them and make sure they have the programming that they need. But that is the greatest issue that we're confronting at the moment, to providing ongoing services to help them develop skills needed for employment and further training.
For LGBTQ plus individuals, they face workplace discriminations in terms of biases in hiring, promotions, daily workplace culture. So this is reflected in a number of our clients being pushed into unstable or low-paying jobs, and that's just the Rockford area, let alone the United States. And there's a lack of affirming job training in the sense that if you have unstable resources, housing, family support, you struggle to access career pathways that provide long-term stability. So it's more of a systemic issue there, and that bleeds into economic barriers as well. Some things that local government services can help with, again, it starts with education, so promoting and encouraging LGBTQ plus inclusive workplace policies. Another possibility is providing incentives for businesses to adopt affirming practices. And the third possibility is funding workforce development programs that support marginalized communities.
I don't know how possible is this, because I'm sitting here like thinking, man, I have so many things I can say on this topic. But I'm going to touch base on a recent event we just had at Constance Lane for the Swahili community. And man, it brought back memories growing up in Rockford, parents that could only speak one language. And a lot of what they were saying, I'm just like remembering my parents and family members kind of saying the same thing. And yeah, our families found resources and supports, but the big thing they were saying is they want to work, but if the minute they go to an employer and they say you don't know English, don't apply. We're not going to hire you. So that's what's happening. So I don't know if there's something that the city can do as an employer summit to address some of these concerns, address what communities are facing from the transportation, childcare, the ability to fill out an application if they don't know the language. They want to work, but they just can't fill out the application. Fair wages, talking about fair wages across all parts of Rockford, from organizations to companies. I mean, I know people that have a passion working with young people, but that pay is not keeping the lights on or bringing food to the table enough, so they have to get a second job or go to a job that they're going to be miserable at. I know something that helped me going through the organizations I work with is I was able to get, some education covered. If I got certain grades, the company was able to pay some of my credits. Incentives like that allowed me to go to school because I wasn't going to be able to pay for it. Also, I had an opportunity through the Department of Labor to experience an apprenticeship through CCS and learning the nonprofit sector as an apprenticeship. So how can we offer opportunities as paid internship or apprenticeship opportunities for young people or even adults? You know, because sometimes excuse my language, but I've been hella lucky because of the experience that I've earned over the years. My experience speaks for itself, and yes, I have an associate's degree. I want to get a bachelor's degree, but I couldn't. I needed to provide for my children, right? Thankfully, people saw my work and seen my experience, and I've gotten opportunities, but not everybody is lucky as me. But I know that apprenticeship opportunity was huge for me. Getting assistance to pay for education was huge for me. And how can we offer that opportunity? And I don't know, like I said, is it an employer summit? How can we all come together to help our families and hear what those concerns are out there? And I think that could help with a little bit.
Commissioners, do you have any questions related to that? Any follow-up? Okay. So now we're going to shift towards mental health. What is your experience, or what are the experiences of folks in the communities that you care about when accessing mental health services in our community?
I could say there's some need for education about what mental health services are available and how to access them and if they're accessible. Some of our English language learners may not come from a culture where they understand what that service is or could offer to them, how greatly they could benefit from it. And they may also not be aware of whether that service could be offered in their language. You know, they may not know if those services utilize translation services or interpretation services. And I'm sure you're familiar with the landscape of how many languages we have, but just in our program alone of 500 or 600 English language learners, we have 49 languages represented. So there's a big gap probably with understanding, can I access mental services? It may not even come to mind because of cultural unfamiliarity, with the service, but we certainly see the challenges, the barriers, the difficulties that our students deal with, and putting that before them in a way that educates them about the benefits and the accessibility would be great. We have, just as an example, we have a wonderful partnership. The Personal Student Success Counseling Office at Rock Valley College allows adult education learners, those in our program, to meet with them for a number of appointments, and then beyond that, they're referred. And they have, our students, we make them aware of it, and they respond. So, and this is students in our ABE, ASE program that take us up on that more often, but for crisis counseling, we've had grief counseling, we've had a student in a relationship situation that needed counseling, and having something that we could give them immediately and let them know they could access. They even came to our building where the student was having class and met with the student. So we've seen the accessibility work, and then we are also aware of the many different sectors of this complex population that may not be accessing the mental health services, and their lives could truly be enriched, and they could really benefit if we help them understand, whether their characteristics would prevent them from accessing services, how they could, and the benefits.
I would like to see more providers offer services to people who get public insurance, because that is a big barrier. And I also would like to see more providers be educated on what mental illness with a disability looks like, because a lot of people who have disabilities are embarrassed by what their disability might cause them to do in a mental health professional setting, such as autistic behaviors, bipolar disorder behaviors, if you have a disability, might look different. So I would like to see more training surrounding that, as well as more providers who take all types of payment, because not doing so is a huge disservice to a lot of people in the community.
I echo what you said as well. The whole cultural competence training is huge for service providers, and that is true for the LGBTQ plus community as well. I can use myself as an example. I'm searching for a provider now, and I'm at a loss of where to go. I have a few pointers, but I'm searching, and I'm on the board of this organization that helps the community. So that's a personal example there, but so going through cultural competency training specific to different marginalized groups, including people with disabilities, LGBTQ plus people, and also advertising that for people who are searching. I think that is very important. Also, so that promotion is important, and that's something that Phyllis made a note here that the Liam Foundation is very willing to help with. We do have a few people who are volunteers in our organization who are mental health clinicians, and we would be very happy to talk about, in addition to mental health, the other services that are LGBTQ plus friendly we can help in identifying or to communicate and network with the city on that. So yes, so cultural competency training and visibility.
I don't know how to access mental health supports for Spanish-speaking families. You mentioned other communities that speak one language. And what's really interesting that I've been seeing the last couple of years, at least in the Latino community, we've gone from like, we don't need that. No, we tough it up, to now we want to present to our families. We need to present to our kids. But if we have a presentation from, let's say, NAMI, and they don't have a direct connect to somebody they feel comfortable in speaking with, then it's a loss, right? I don't know how to solve it, but I do want to say that at least in the Latino community, we're starting to see more of our families, wanting to get that mental health support in different areas, from our youth, our parents. Like they're starting to talk to each other more, and I'm hearing even a couple churches starting little groups, but they want the experts. They want to be able to access more support that they're able to do in their small groups, So it's a positive in a way. We're starting to see that, at least from my point of view. I've been seeing it more in our Latino community, wanting to, okay, let's bring the information, let's speak about where to go, but it's hard to turn them to somewhere that they might not feel comfortable because they don't see somebody like them or be able to talk to them. So they need to speak about things. But the city's been doing good too in promoting that throughout our community, especially our young people. So I do want to give that, thumbs up for the city.
So last question on our list, and then commissioners, if you have other questions, so we can go to those. So we know that there's a lot going on right now that might make members of our underserved, marginalized communities feel less than safe. What are some things that you would like to see the city do or talk about more that might make residents in our communities feel more safe than they do right now?
I could start by pitching the idea that many of our populations are probably in fear of losing services. And if there is any support that will sustain services or will if we could assure them that they will still be able to access different services, whatever that happens to be, I think that would go a long way in calming some of the fears. I think the worst thing that individuals are perhaps dealing with right now is just the threat, the fear, the uncertainty of what's going to happen and if they're going to be able to access some of the things that they really depend on right now. So I would say that it comes back to the communication piece that we talked about. Can the message get out there of what's not going away? What can they count on?
What would be the main services that they would be afraid of? Can you name?
Losing?
Losing.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone probably would like or should answer that, from your perspectives. Access to education and training would be number one that we would see, the service that they depend upon the most. We have a few students that rely on participation on a program like ours in order to access their benefits. So they may lose access to certain benefits if they aren't a part of, adult education programs, for an example. And if those don't exist, then they can't be a part of them. That's one example of service that they need. I'm trying to think of others, but others on the panel might be able to think of critical services.
I would like to see the city come out with an information sheet of sorts to tell people what the city can do to counteract what the federal government is doing, or to tell people that what the federal government is doing does not directly affect what happens in the city, because I think a lot of people in the disability community are scared that what the president is doing is going to directly impact them right now, and I don't necessarily think that they understand that there are protections for them that will keep them at least able to survive despite what the federal government does. So I would like to see Rockford make a stance on that. In terms of services, I think that it's important that the city let people know that ICE is not coming to arrest them. A lot of people that I know haven't left their house since that was announced because they're scared that that's going to happen, even if they've been here for generations. I also want to see clarification on the Social Security Administration issue that was put out a couple weeks ago now, because people are afraid of losing those benefits. So I think, again, just more clear communication will go a long way in easing people's minds as we all try to navigate what's going on.
I echo the need for communication and how powerful that can be. I know that the city has been very affirming with the LGBTQ plus community, continue doing that. So citywide affirmations of inclusion through public statements, events, or initiatives that signal that Rockford is a safe place for all people, regardless of their identity, like sponsoring the Pride Parade, as they did last year. Another is investing in LGBTQ plus education, specifically for law enforcement. The LGBTQ plus community and law enforcement had a very tenuous relationship just historically. I understand that steps have been made. There's an LGBTQ plus liaison in the police department, so that's a step. But to ensure that all police officers understand how to effectively and respectfully engage with community members during interactions, keeping safety and trust in mind, being intentional about the role of the LGBTQ plus police liaison and utilizing that role a little bit more. I think that is another way that the city can help put more minds at ease and offer more transparency. The last suggestion is strengthening and enforcing anti-discrimination policies and conditions in our county jail, specifically for trans people, but ensuring that all LGBTQ plus individuals receive equal treatment as with their cisgender and heterosexual counterparts.
Commission? No, go ahead.
I think more communication for sure. Let's use social media to the advantage that we can right now. Maybe shared communication, not only from the mayor, but other city leaders that can point out that our city is safe. Doing something similar with superintendent right now, and making sure that we can put out a message to our families to let them know that it's safe for their children to come to school and that they'll be taken care of. So we're working on that right now with the superintendent and their team, and not just leaving it on the district. Community leaders are coming together to support it once that message is ready. So that'll be neat to see for our city. Going back with the policing, I think City of Rockford and the police, has connected with various parts of the community and listening and trying to do their best to, change things around. I mean, as a youth, I care for the police. I'm trying to work with the police. I'm actually wanting them to be present more and more at our events, but not just as police, as individuals. Like, they're citizens. I want them to build relationships with our community and our young people. And I think it's easier with our police department. But what hinders us is that we have other policing organizations that don't have the same goals and are on the same page. And needs to be. Somehow we also need to work with the county and making sure what is it that we're all going to do the same to show that we're all safe and that we're all following the same procedures. I'll use a quick example. I got pulled over for a little light on my license plate, but I doubt it was that. Because I get pulled over every so often. They see my face, they pull up the plate, and it's usually the county. Police department have never had a problem in the last couple of years. Never. And that's where I seen the difference. But in our community, police is police. And so when it's state police and it's county, it makes our city police look bad. And that's not fair. That's not fair because our city police is trying. And I have friends that are in the police department that I've told, I know you guys are trying. I don't know how that's going to be resolved, but coming down South Main in a certain time of month, people, hey, we're getting tickets. Up in Harrison, we're getting tickets. So, and it's not our police department. So that's something across the board, if anything. Hey, what's fair is fair, but I don't see the same pressures going on over on Perryville, East State. I'm going to tell it like it is because I've been feeling it the last couple of years, and my kids don't understand it. But I got to tell them to be safe, and that sucks to say that to them in these times that we're living. But definitely, I know City of Rockford Police, we're trying, we're working together, but how do we get that message to the other entities that are supposed to keep us safe?
Hey, I have a question on that that very communication. Good friend of mine publishes El Tiempo, and I don't think there's any regular column in that paper that communicates anything from the city to the Latino community. It seems to me that that would be an easy thing to hook up if we wanted to share information with your specific community, because we have a paper that specifically addresses your community, that we could hook that up. If there's things and we want to create a dialogue, that's a great place to do it.
That kind of leads into my next question, and Antonio, you talked about social media. We know communication is key, but communication is so splintered these days. To each of your communities, constituencies, what do you think would be the most effective ways to reach the most people? People, fortunately, as I said, don't read print or even digital sometimes these days. It's just a matter of, anyway, what would be the most effective ways to communicate, do you think?
I think right now it's been working for some things that I've been doing the last 5 years. Definitely Facebook is the biggest trend that we're using. But if we can create opportunities for like town hall meetings in the community, churches, working with churches that, can bring the communities together. And this can be done with all communities, not just the Latino community. I think you'll start gathering that and recording those to be able to publicize those also, so that those that can't make it at least can watch it somewhere. If it's on Facebook, a quick click. I think a lot more people are doing the quick click thing versus opening the emails. I'm not really on the emails, with personal emails, but definitely social media. I mean, however we can help push that, short messages or long messages, or just continuing to meet with our communities and being able to, because we have the newspaper, but some people are not picking that up anymore either. But I think if you host different events or come out to events. Come out to Domingos en el Parque, just a plug there. But that's the other reason that I continue Domingos en el Parque. I saw it as the opportunity of not just having live music and food, it's bringing the resources there. And when you come to our community, we embrace you. We start learning more about you. We'll start coming to you, and even if you don't have somebody that speaks Spanish in your organization, at least having something translated and being present, it can go a long way. And so our events have been growing because of that. It's not just we're having fun, we're bringing our families together, but I'm also using that as an opportunity to let our families know these things are out there for you guys, because I get calls, where do I go for this? Where can I go for this? Messages for this and that. I don't have all the answers, but I can connect you to those people that can give you the answers. So looking at what's going on in our community, supporting, like the Pride Fest, like all those events are huge right now that are growing. Let's take advantage of those opportunities and being present. And not just I'm sitting in my booth and sitting there, being present, being active, enjoying people and talking to them. And even if they don't come and give a pamphlet, just introducing yourself, it goes a long way. And right now we have a lot of people that are new to Rockford. And the last thing I'll say is this: last year the biggest thing I heard was like they're grateful to be here in Rockford, coming from whatever city they came from. They see that they felt welcome. They feel like they want to continue to live here, and they're telling other families about our city, and it's like, wow, that's great to hear those things. And how do we publicize those great things that are happening in parts of the community that have been given a bad rap? Because, man, everything's changing everywhere, and I'm going to tell you, I don't think there's a bad side of Rockford. I think, yes, we're always going to have violence, but we have opportunities to do great things in all parts of Rockford. We just need to give the support to those that are doing it. They'll bring the families, they'll bring the community together.
I agree with Antonio. Social media, definitely. And the city has had a presence at the first Pride Parade last year, at the Liam Foundation's annual gala. They were a sponsor. So continue showing up. And speaking of new people coming to Rockford, I work at Rock Valley College as well. Last week, I spoke with a brand new student whose family just relocated from somewhere in Iowa to here because of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation. They uprooted their entire family. And I told them, hey, at Rock Valley, I oversee LGBTQ plus training and programming. In Rockford, we have the Liam Foundation. The city is very supportive. I went straight to the City of Rockford Facebook page and showed it to them, and they're like, whoa, like this is more than I imagined. And they're like, I have some friends and family members from Iowa who are thinking about coming this way as well, and they're like, I'm going to have plenty of things to share with them. And so social media goes a long way, being present, all of those small interactions, they add up.
Yeah, I would add to that just on the note of how we are seeing people accessing Rockford, and mainly because we have wonderful services. You know, there are, that's what we hear over and over again. And I think if you have information to communicate, most of our students are connected in some way to a community service. So either Rock Valley College, the Workforce Connection, IDHS, you know, different kinds of DHS, social service agencies. So I feel like some of that communication happens through case managers, teachers, service providers, you know, things that they wouldn't necessarily know to follow the city's Facebook page. They wouldn't necessarily, you know, have a way to receive that outreach that you're trying to give. So I think if there was a way to link together with social service agencies, that information could trickle into the communities, because those individuals would be sharing and trying to get, you know, spread that information with their clients and students.
I really think the church idea is a powerful tool, because a lot of our communities intersect at church. So if you can come to the church, you will reach a lot of people. So if we can figure out a way to do that, that would be helpful.
Any other questions from commissioners?
I'd like to backtrack one thing, just to interject on the healthcare, the mental health issue. And this affects every community. I'm going to directly address the issue. Period is most healthcare is privatized, and so there's two facets: that which you can afford, or that which you can qualify for under Medicaid. Well, there's really not a whole lot of available mental health care unless you seek it. I don't know how, as a city, we can bridge that gap. But I do know that directly relating to the LGBTQ, my son, who is trans and is a counselor specializing in mental health care for intercultural, and he's got to go to Chicago for medical health. There is nothing here in Rockford. So as a city, it seems to me that we need to find a way to foster incoming services. There's nothing we can do as a city. We can't provide this service, but we need to find a way to foster services to come in and provide themselves to all of our communities.
Anything else, Commission? City staff, do you all have any other?
Chair, one of the things that, as I've listened to all of the communities represented, is I guess it could be summed up with a safe space. That one of the things that myself, even Norma and Pastor Joniker from Brook Road, one of the goals that we wanted to do, and we're still trying to do it, is create community resources, not community centers, community resource centers represented in every ward. And how we would do that is partner up with either community centers, churches, that not based upon theology, but based upon how we can assist. Not based upon biases, but based upon how we can assist. One of the things that I did when I created my resource center across the street from my church was took down my church name from the building, so that it will remove any hindrance of a person that feels that there's a certain bias based upon what's on the building. And I think that one of the things we learned 5 years ago, particularly in this city, is that when COVID came into Rockford, of course, around, but particularly in Rockford, we noticed that there was a lot of fear, particularly with the Latino community. When you wanted to go into get a shot and you had the military there. And so we noticed that there's fear. And so in every community that's represented, there's a level of fear. and there needs to be a place, a safe space. So yes, I agree. We can do social media. That's one thing, but I believe that we ought to begin to build community again, because right now we're segregated, and so it's education, it is training, and it's communication. But people need to feel safe to come to a place, in spite of their disability, in spite of their gender, in spite of their sexual orientation, that they're able to feel safe, to be transparent, and to get help. And even if that organization, in some kind of way, and I'm taking yours, if we had a utopian moment where we were able to connect, because the purpose of the Community Resource Center is to partner with the alderperson, which is the city, and to be the conduit between the city and the needs of the people, but provide that safe space where they feel comfortable to address their need, and we'll be able to direct them, even if that organization is not present, have a relationship to direct them to a place where they can get whatever help. And so that was one of the goals when I came here 6 years ago. I realized that there's a lot of need, there's a lot of lack. The city is moving as fast as it can go, but as it's moving, indirectly we're leaving people behind based upon language barrier, based upon gender, based upon all of those things, disability and all of that. And I think that's what hurts our city. Yeah, we're a welcoming city. Yeah, you get off on the highway, you see a beautiful sign that says we're welcoming. But you can be welcoming but not be able to provide. And I think that's where the disconnect is with the communication, with having a place where a person feels safe to come and express what they need. And if we can get that, and I know that's like solving world hunger, but if we can get, and we're working, Norm and I and others are working to provide resource centers in these wards so that we can help communities that's in need and work with organizations, because I've been here long enough to realize that we do have a lot of organizations here, but the problem is that the organizations have a hard time getting funding to provide the resources needed in the communities needed to do what needs to be done. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chair.
And with that, I will.
Yeah, Sarah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, and actually, really welcome those comments. Just didn't want the city to not say anything, but we're really here to listen tonight. I really appreciate the commission hosting this conversation and showing up, and thank you, Eric, for your leadership in this. But to your point, that's such a good point, and so I just want to validate and thank you for giving us that. It's hard to know what you're going to face even here. And to your point about this being a big building and stone and all that kind of stuff, and this is literally City Hall with microphones, and we don't even have cookies. It's like but you still came and shared really faithfully for your communities what you wanted to see, and this is what the commission really wants to be about this year, is hearing that and figuring out how to reflect back. So I really appreciate it. Like Dr. Martin said, Reverend Martin, the safe spaces are hard sometimes to just assume are going to be in place, but you all did tonight, and I really appreciate that. And really, again, appreciate your willing in leadership in doing that. And I just want to let you know that one of the other things the commission, and we're trying to help bridge to them, is they've asked you to be able to know more of what's going on in the community and how they can connect to different things going on. So we're sending out events and things also to the commission to make sure they stay aware, so that they're also interacting with communities in the community and thinking about these things beyond these meetings. So if you have anything, to your points, like coming up, or things that ways they could get to know more if they wanted to, we're happy to collect that and send that out as we do regularly. So just make sure you know.
Brother Chair, I got one more thing. I just celebrated my birthday, so I'm getting older.
Oh, of course.
And but Ron brought up a great point that we didn't address when it came down to criminal records. And so I believe that we ought to deal with expungements and how can we bring individuals to deal with expungements to kind of handle that. Also, I'm trying to get you all's name because I don't want to, Antonio mentioned something about some level of a summit. And I think that's a great idea that we can bring a nonprofit summit together where we have all of the nonprofits or a mass majority of nonprofits to come to one central location so that people can engage and understand. And if that's creating small summits in whatever the community's grouping, if it's the Pride, if it's, I can't say it because I can't roll my tongue, but
Domingos.
I got you. If we can have many nonprofits to come where people understand that fits the community, where they can get access and all that, that'd be beneficial as well. Because I know it's hard to get a large group together with it.
I appreciate that because I'm actually going to my next meeting is with my Domingos planning team, and one of our goals is to get more nonprofits, more resources out at our events this year. Definitely, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And thank you for coming. These doors are always open to you all. Our meetings happen once a month. You are more than welcome to come in, more than welcome to reach out to any of us. If there are things happening, we are the direct link to the city from the community. Let us know. We'll take it to them. We want you to feel safe to come into this space and share what's happening. So thank you for sharing tonight. You're welcome to come in anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commission, we have a few more things to address tonight. The next thing on our agenda is the MWBE spend report.
Hi, I think it was in your packet. I'll just mention a few highlights. We did it kind of late last year. One of my goals is that we'll be doing this annually. One of the thoughts that was brought up was being able to track our subcontractor MWBE spend. There's some work that we still need to be able to do on that. We've got to work with IT in our Munis hub, which is basically tracks all of that kind of data to be able to pull those numbers for you. So the numbers are similar to what you saw on last year's report as far as what we're tracking, which is our total vendor spend. It does not include subcontracts at this point. So if you just take a look for 2024, our citywide MWBE spend, which is across all vendors, was just over $20 million, which is a 20% increase from last year, which was about $16 million. We've continued to increase our MWBE registration list, which if the city has a master list for businesses that have registered with us as minority or women-owned. We're up to 110 registrants at this point for 2024. Some points of pride for the city. The areas of large MWBE spend continually tend to be the same areas, such as construction contracts, home rehabilitation programs, streets and water division, so very similar in that. For our home and CDBG spend, we've been going up every single year in that for our minority and women-owned business participation. For 2024, it was 98.3%, which is, I think, a really fantastic number there. Some steps to success. We are continuing to partner with agencies on trying to increase our MWBE list to diversify our vendor portfolio. I partnered with our CED department this year. Juria was part of it. This is going to be in your 2025 report, so you probably won't remember it. But we did a Section 3 event and met with local contractors and talked about different compliance requirements and things like that. We're looking at hosting a resource event for small businesses and how to bring them up to capacity to be able to do business with the City of Rockford and other government agencies. We're not the only government agency here, and we want to see them to be able to do business with other agencies. And there's a big capacity issue. That can be funding, that can be knowing how to fill out a bid packet, approved apprenticeship programs. The city and every other government agency, with the exception of the airport, has a responsible bidders ordinance. That's a big barrier to small businesses, and a lot of our small businesses happen to be owned by women or people that are minorities. So that's a barrier, and that's something that we're trying to help them to address and overcome. So that resource event is going to be targeting some of those different barriers that we're seeing in our community. And some areas of improvement is just continuing to encourage MWBE contractors to bid. I think that's where that resource event is really going to come into play, and helping them to know how to navigate that bid process. It can be very overwhelming. Encouraging expansion of existing MWBE contractors. Again, that's that resource event. How do we bring them up to capacity to be able to work on our projects? And then just continued improved administration, as always, of our human rights ordinance, which is where you guys are housed, and the establishment of this commission. Do you guys have any questions for me on that report?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. The next thing on our agenda, going to old business, is the 2024 annual report. As you all will see in your packet, there is a draft report. We do have to provide the mayor with a report of the things that we have worked on. You all received a copy of it and were asked to review. Are there any things that you want to add or subtract from the report before we send it to the mayor, or are we in a position where we're ready to send it to the mayor?
Well done. Thank you.
Yeah.
We don't need to do any sort of vote to send it to the mayor, right? We can, or do we need to vote?
I think we need to vote, right?
We need to vote? Okay, well, if there are no changes made, I will take a motion to submit the report as written to the mayor. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we will send that on to the mayor. The next thing on our agenda is the 2025 action plan. You all also have copies of that in your packet. You will see the plan for this year, again, is really community focused. We really are trying to create opportunities for the community to come and talk to us. So as you reviewed that document, are there any things that you wanted to bring to attention, or things that weren't being addressed that should be?
Eric, can I just ask for clarification on April and May? I just want to make sure this reflects what you wanted to see. It currently has an open forum next month, but we did have some panelists that couldn't come tonight. Do you want to keep April as is, or do you want to?
Great question. So, Commission, what do you guys feel? So we had some folks that were not able to come visit us. The first thought that we all kind of chatted about was, if we have these open community conversations, we can invite them to those spaces, or do we want to do a panel with the folks that weren't able to attend and give them the same level of attention that we would have given them tonight had they been able to attend?
I think that would be good.
To do another panel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it might focus the people who are coming and the open forum as well.
So do we want to suggest, like, because like this, right? We could do the panel first, and then say thank you, and then you could have time to process after the two meetings, and then maybe move the open forum to May.
I like that. Yeah. Your thoughts, moving the open forum, the community conversation to May. That also gives us time more to promote the open forum and bring community members to come talk to us.
That was actually going to be my question. How exactly is this the forum going to be promoted, and will there be any structure or rules or whatever in terms of the speakers?
Yeah, did we just? I'll answer the how it will be promoted, and then we can someone else hopefully the structure. But so yeah, we will definitely use our usual routes, which are social media. We'll try and do a press release of some kind and try and have maybe Rock River Current or a couple try and pick up and do a different kind of article, we will be in touch with Eric if we get that possibility. The other thing is Barb and I, and meetings that we go to, will promote and ask people. So like, for instance, I'm speaking at the Belonging Commission or the community group next week about a topic they're discussing, but we're also working with them, which is financial empowerment and what they're seeing in the community. They also have a food scarcity task force, so I'll just say to them directly, if this is something that you feel, and I know it is, right, but if you could send representatives and think about, right, so Barb and I have been thinking through how we could we'll do the general pathways that we need to make sure there's people know they can come, right, but we'll also, the discussions we know are going on, we'll invite representatives to interact, get in touch with Eric, or sign up to speak. Structure.
Yes.
Do anyone from the legal department have a view on structure?
I mean, I think we could look at it from a couple different options. We can follow the standard format for public speakers, like when they come to council, there's a timed limit for them to be able to speak. They can't maybe reference personnel issues or things of that nature, but I think that would probably be the cleanest way for us to have a public forum for speakers. I think the biggest thing would be what the Q&A could look like if you guys had follow-up questions to what they were saying. I don't know how that would necessarily look if we stuck to a traditional public speaker format that we typically use for meetings like this.
Do you all want the ability to be able to have the Q&A back and forth?
Just a question. My question would only be how many individuals. So traditionally for city council, it's only 3.
Right.
But how I think we need to have a number of individuals that we're dealing with, because if it's just open as it's here, we'd be here all night and we'd be going back. And so
we would limit that for you.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, and then we should be able to have some kind of dialogue back.
Right. So we could maybe do some sort of form. They have to you submit to speak at city council, right? And you say what you're going to be speaking on. And if you're speaking on one of the things being voted on, right, you get bumped to the top or that kind of thing. Bumped might not be the right word. So maybe they have to say what their topic is, because we don't want, if we say 10 speakers, we don't want it to be all food scarcity when someone really wanted to talk about, right? So maybe we're first in on food insecurity gets to be the speaker. Maybe we do that. We just make sure we get topic and.
Yeah, that's what I was. Can we suggest topics that are, and then they pick that, because you're right. We'll have 10 people talk about food scarcity, and so. How could we limit that? Maybe just offer some topics, different topics that are.
Okay. And I think one thing we did talk about too, Eric, is setting up a generic email where someone could send in their interest in what they wanted to talk about, as we could kind of start to gather that. And then maybe at April's meeting, if we've gotten any sort of feedback, we can start to hash that out with you all.
I would say if we could put a line in there at the end, other, and then they write it in, because it could be something out of our topic.
But the question remains question and answer, though. That's still on the.
What we could do, we do have guidelines within the ordinance for public speakers and what that looks like. I think the current limit is 5 minutes. Is that what it says? 5? 3? 3 minutes. So what we could do, and I don't know if we can adjust this because it is a special kind of meeting that we're doing. It's not just that traditional 3 or 5 speakers. Maybe they have 3 minutes, and this is in the rules, right? When they submit to speak, they have 3 minutes to speak, and there's a 2-minute opportunity for commissioners for Q&A. So if you have questions, we've got 2 minutes, kind of like we did with Regrow, right? They had the 3-minute presentations where they were able to present what they wanted to present, and then we had 2 minutes once they finished to be able to ask any questions. Some we took the full 2 minutes, some we did not. I think that would be a really good format for us to follow putting that in the guidelines for when they put in the request to speak. And then again, asking for their topic so that way, if we have 10 people speaking on food scarcity, and, we can kind of navigate that as we need. I think what we would need from you guys is how long do you want this to take? So if we have 5 minutes per speaker, how many speakers do we want to allow to register? Because once we hit that limit, nobody else can register for this meeting.
Yeah, I think 10 makes,
10, that'll keep it around an hour.
because then you've got, of those 10 speaking 3 minutes, you've got 2 minutes for
We're all looking at each other going, 10.
Yeah, and then to follow too, and because of the rest of this, you'll see in the rest of your schedule, right, there's 3 other community conversations, and one of the ideas was between this panel, your next panel, and these 10 speakers, you guys would then talk and say, okay, we're going to host a whole discussion now on this topic, right? So there'll be plenty of time to really delve into something if the 2-minute Q&A doesn't give it to you.
So with those amendments to the schedule in mind, do we have someone who would like to make a motion as amended that we move forward with the 2025 action plan?
So move with the amendment.
Second?
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do we have any commissioner reports tonight? Okay. Then I will take a motion to adjourn. All right, second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good month.